Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to Radio IMWS, broadcasting live from the Al Hikmah Center. Now, we do have a caller in the line. Before that, we're just going to very quickly introduce my guest in the studio this evening, who is Mr. Hassan Vedat. Hassan Bhai will come on to you very shortly. Let's see who's on the line. Caller.
It's Joe Cox. How are you?
Good. I'm very well, thank you, Joe. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you, and hello, Hassan. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Joe. Hope you're good as well. Sorry I couldn't go along to the social if I was a bit busy.
Well, it was everybody was celebrating the wonderful victories for Shabir Pandor and for Fazila Fadia. So
certainly was, yeah.
And nice to hear both your voices. Are you okay for me to join you for a little while?
We are very much so. We were hoping you'd be in the studio with us today, but appreciate you calling in nevertheless. Now then, Joe, what do you make of the elections?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, the Labour Party locally did really well in Batley. I mean, we did awesomely in Batley. I mean, I'm really excited about how Councillor Pandor was returned with a really big majority, and Fazila Fadia will be an incredibly brilliant local councillor, really, really fighting for the community. So they've both worked really hard to be elected, and they'll be great. And then it was a bit of a mixed result across the rest of the constituency. So Labour lost a seat in Liversedge and Gomersall, unfortunately, and we had pretty poor showing in Cleckheaton and Birstall, unfortunately. And across the rest of Kirklees, there was a bit of a mixed result. And nationally, I'm actually really quite disappointed. We were completely hammered in Scotland. I mean, to be beaten by the Conservatives into third place puts any prospect of a Labour government anytime soon in real jeopardy. I mean, we should be winning seats and really increasing our vote in Scotland. We were pushed back really badly in Wales, and we lost a lot of councillors in England. And, at this stage, with such an awful government, so divided, so divisive, putting out awful policies for local people on everything from school to the NHS. Labour should be doing better. So I feel like nationally it was a bad day. And the reason I think it's bad is because I'm impatient for us to get a Labour government. I was out knocking on doors in Batley for the last few months, and people say to me, Joe, why can't you do anything about the visa system? Why can't you do anything about the bedroom tax? Why can't you do anything about our schools and the hospital? And, the answer is because we're not in power, because it's not a Labour government. So I woke up this morning with mixed emotions, really proud of the local candidates and the local activists, but really sad that, Labour should be doing better, and we need a Labour government. If we want to do anything locally, we need a Labour government.
Well, Joe, you've mentioned there Scotland. We start with that first and foremost. I mean, you say you were hammered last night, but you were hammered last year in May. All but one Labour MP remained standing. I mean, surely to recover from that, you're going to have to do something spectacular, and it's going to take time. Why is it that you've come out so strongly in criticising the Labour leadership at this time?
I'm not really criticising them. I'm sort of am, but I'm saying we need to do better. I mean, some of you will remember, maybe Hassan, you'll remember. Jeremy, one of the reasons I nominated Jeremy was because he, and supported him onto the ballot was because he was really certain that he would be able to very quickly increase Labour's vote in Scotland, and he also was really, really promising that he'd persuade non-voters to come and vote, the Green voters to come and vote Labour, for people to come back to the party that haven't been supporting us for a long time. And that didn't happen this time. There was no evidence that happened. And in Scotland, we went backwards. It was an awful night for the Labour Party in Scotland. And, to be pushed into third place by the Conservative Party in Scotland, who are hated above all others, I mean, that's a really dark day for the Labour Party in Scotland. And, we all Labour MPs need to need to take responsibility for this. But Jeremy's the leader. You know, he does need to reflect on what went wrong in Scotland, and how do we put it right.
Okay, Joe, I've got a question that's coming. I know Hassan will want to come in very shortly as well. So I'm going to ask this one question and then bring Hassan into it. Hi, Joe. Following your comments today, are you still loyal to your Labour leader?
I am absolutely loyal to Jeremy. And, you know, I'm not calling in any way for Jeremy to go or anything like that. I'm loyal to Jeremy, and I've been loyal for the last year. It's why I nominated him. I think his principles and integrity are sound. What I'm worried about, though, and what I think Jeremy needs to also be worried about, is that at this stage in such a divisive government, 6 years in, Labour should be in a much stronger position. You know, so I think Jeremy, if Jeremy can persuade the British people and voters across Batley and Spen that he's a Prime Minister and people will want him to be the next Prime Minister, he's got my full support. But he's got to do that. He's got to do that for the millions of people up and down the country who need a Labour government. And that's why I'm impatient. That's why I'm, you know, and you know me, I mean, I'm not going to be the sort of politician that sits back and rests and sits on my laurels and doesn't speak out for people who need somebody speaking out for them. And all those people that come to my surgeries and are crying on my shoulder saying, we've had a horrible time with the benefit system, we can't get the visa that we need to bring aunties or mothers or friends here, we can't get housing. For those people, I am impatient. I am impatient because we need a Labour government. And, you know, Jeremy and me and all the other Labour Party officials and leaders need to get it right. We need a Labour government. And that's why I've been speaking out today, because I'm frustrated that for all those people that come to my surgeries, I don't yet have the power to really help them. And it makes me heartbroken that the number of people that this government are damaging.
Hassan, I'm sure you want to come in on this.
Yeah, hi Joe again.
Hey Hassan.
I saw your interview, not live. I was one of the sad people to stay up a good chunk of the night, so I saw lots of comments being made by all leaders from all parties, kind of thing. But I think, Joe, if I'm being honest, I think you needed to take a good long night's rest yourself, because I was a bit surprised by one of the interviews that I saw of yours. I mean, can I just ask you, you'll be aware today, you know, within all the news, the Tory government put out some bad news, you know, that's one of the policies.
They always do, they always do.
But what I was going on to say is today, basically, they've done a U-turn on the accommodation. And, you know, Jeremy he's asked probably about, 9 or 10 questions just within the Prime Minister's question time. Can you enlighten me and the listeners how many U-turns or examples that comes to your head? Because to me, it seems like there's a U-turn that comes from the Tory government, every week or every 2 weeks. Yeah,
every week, Hassan. So in fact, we've had 2 U-turns this week from the government. So we've had today the announcement that they're not going to force schools to become academies. So it's something I had a 3-hour debate on this 2 weeks ago in the Commons about how bad that would be for Yorkshire schools. And I'm sure you've got lots of teachers and head teachers and parents listening. And I had a big local forum a couple of weeks ago with head teachers, and they were unanimously against the idea. So on their behalf, we did a 3-hour debate where I raised serious concerns about this ridiculous policy of forcing schools to become academies. So thankfully, the government have listened. So the other U-turn, Hassan, which again is something I spoke out very passionately about last week and the week before, was the government's refusal to accept child refugees from Syria and other places who are already in Europe and give them some hope and sanctuary here. The government for weeks refused to act. And it took many of us on the Labour Party benches to repeatedly campaign to say, come on, these are children. They're fleeing horrors that we can't even begin to imagine. And finally, the Prime Minister backed down on that this week. So that's 2 this week alone.
Just this week,
I think there'll be something coming on junior
Well,
doctors.
do you know where I'm taking this, Joe? Where I'm taking this is you've just accepted and agreed with this, haven't you? That there's U-turns happening very, very common. In the past, Margaret Thatcher would do a U-turn, but it would be once in a parliament kind of thing.
Hassan, do you know why that is? So the Conservative Party currently have got an 18 majority. So the reason they've done U-turns this week is because more than 18 of their Conservative MPs were threatening to vote against the Conservative Party. That's really why they've done these 2 U-turns this week, because they didn't have the numbers on the Conservative Party side. So it really is all about an internal Conservative Party fight. Now that's been helped by campaigning by the Labour Party and by charities, but really it's about the numbers. The Conservative government just didn't have the numbers of Tory MPs that were willing to back these 2 ridiculous, flawed policies.
Well, yeah, partly, of course, it's because the Conservative government is in a precarious situation. The majority is not high. But come on, surely, Joe, a lot of it is down to a lot of the persistent, consistent campaigning and pressurizing from the Labour leadership. I know, congratulations to you and your role in it as well, and many other individually at, as member level or MP level or whatever. But come on, you've got to give credit where credit is.
I do, and I give credit to Jeremy. He had one of the strongest Prime Minister's questions he's ever had, actually, on academies. He was really powerful, and he really socked it to Cameron. He was great, and I'm very happy to acknowledge that he did a brilliant job of really focusing in on the academies issue. But we've also had Yvette Cooper, who's done a brilliant job on child refugees, and actually I think she and Lord Alf Dubs, who was one of the children that fled the Nazis, who was helped by our country, he really has done all the running on the child refugee U-turn. I think it's a collective effort, Hassan. I've most of these things usually are.
Is that relating to the kinder?
But we can't kid ourselves. The reason those 2 U-turns really happened, we created a kind of enabling environment by being really, angry and campaigning and keeping the pressure on. But really, these things come down to the fact that there were Tory MPs that were willing to go against the government. I mean, really, that's what these both were.
But I mean, as you know, Joe, politics is always about opinions, and you and I are both of the Labour, same party kind of thing. But if any of these U-turns had not been made, then some people, what I would call bad people, Blairites, the Conservatives dressed in blue or evil people, or they would have been not, quick off the draw to start blaming Jeremy and John McDonnell or the Labourship. The fact is that there's unity amongst the leadership. I'm sure you'll have heard Dr. Watson and even the Tony Benson today. There's unity, generally speaking, among the national executive, at least as far as the last time they met. There's unity amongst the shadow cabinet. There's certainly unity amongst the membership, and the membership, as you know, is the biggest ever. So, frankly, in my opinion, the only weak point is the Parliamentary Labour Party. And I just really hope they'd put a bit more kind of enthusiasm and lack of disingenuousness. See, at the end of the day, Joe, whether there's a leadership challenge now or in 2021 or whenever, what is that hoping to achieve? Because Labour Party is not going to move backwards.
I don't think there should be a leadership challenge. I'm not. I really don't think there should be a leadership challenge. I'm not arguing for one. And I put Jeremy on the ballot so we could have a debate. We're having a debate, but my point in all the interviews and everything I've said today and everything I'll continue to say for the next few years is this only works if Labour win power next time. All those people from Batley that come to see me and need answers and need someone that's got the power to help them need a Labour government. So Jeremy, the leadership, all MPs, all the Labour Party members, we've got to realise that everything we do has to be designed to get a Labour government, Hassan. That's what I'm frustrated about. That's why I'm not gonna stop speaking about the fact that our responsibility is to the British public. We have got to get a Labour government if we want to do anything good, you know, and that's going to be my driving ambition for the next 4 years, as long as I'm the Labour MP for Batley and Spen, and I'm not going to stop banging on about that, because to do good stuff in the world, to do good stuff in Batley, we need Labour government, you know, and I'm not. I think that's absolutely key.
I think we've absolutely got agreed objectives in terms of where we'd all like to go, even as a party or even as a country. The question or issue is how best. And I know, you know, I know, Joe, I've known you for a while now, and you're very passionate about, you know, what you believe in, and that's fantastic to hear. But not everyone's the same, and people have got different ideas about how we could do better. And clearly, a lot of people in the, I mean, reading your own Facebook page, you know, today, some of the comments that were coming on, they're sort of looking more inwardly, and not inwardly just generally at the Labour Party, but at the PLP, whoever those, you know, PLP people could be. I think it's something we'll agree to. I think we'll have to agree to.
And Hassan, I think we'll agree, where you and I do agree, and where we're both passionate, is that we want to really help the people of Batley and all those vulnerable people up and down the country who are getting really hurt by this government. I mean, on that we agree. And I sit for hours every week listening to people's problems and trying to help them. And I tell you, it is heartbreaking to not be able to, and to have to sit in the House of Commons and watch the government do all sorts of horrific things that I know are going to have a damaging impact on Batley and Spen. It breaks my heart, and it's not why I entered politics. I am not going to sit back and let this government do what they're doing without me going down with a fight. And Hassan, I think we can agree on that's what this is all about.
Yeah, we can. And Joe, someone else has come into our studio. I don't know if you're actually watching this live, but it's
Maulana Hashim
Sacha. So he might want to chip in. I don't know. But my final point, Joe, is in terms of what was my final point? I'll have to be thinking on that.
I'll let you think for your final point. Let me just get through some of these questions that have been flying in today, Joe. Right, okay. Listeners asking, based on your latest opinion piece in The Guardian, you are already regretting the fact you have nominated Jeremy Corbyn. Regrets, Joe?
Well, look, I do regret, because I now think we should be doing better as a Labour Party than we are. You know, we had a poor day yesterday, and we have to accept that. And you know, I regret that when I was walking around the constituency over the last few weeks, the number of people that came to me to say, why is the Labour Party talking about the monarchy or unilateral disarmament or the Falkland Islands?
Joe,
why aren't you talking about jobs and schools?
Joe, I'm just going to interrupt you there, because I want to ask you a question. I've read that piece, and I know what you're saying, and you've said that already, or to the effect already. But what I want to ask is this thing you've said when voters tell us on the doorstep that they can't picture our leader in number 10. Now you've said that in many different ways today.
We've got to be honest about
it. Yeah, you've said that in many different ways today, Joe. But the question I'd like to ask is, who are these people? Because I'm living in Batley and Spen, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from a lot of people who are actually inspired and who like Jeremy Corbyn. And the other thing that I'm going to say,
I do too.
And the other thing, hold on, Joe. And the other thing I want to say is that when I woke up this morning and I saw your comment, I was expecting Fazila Fadia and Shabir Pando to struggle over the line. But they had landslide victories.
No. That's because the poll was short.
So the strong Labour areas of Batley are not turning their back on Labour or Jeremy Corbyn.
Let's be clear. No, they're not. And let's be clear. I like Jeremy Corbyn. I respect the man enormously. I mean, he and I have done stuff together on Palestine. You know, he's a really decent man. But that's not what this is about. You know, and I know there are lots of people in Batley who like him, who can see him as a prime minister, who think he's a good leader. I totally respect that, and I genuinely do. But the problem is, there are lots of people out there who don't, and I came across a lot of them on the doorstep who just don't believe it. And these are Labour voters.
Yeah, but this is where today I expected.
No, let me finish this point,
okay?
Because this is really important. You know, we did well in England in the English Council elections in seats where we've got solid, strong Labour support. we generally didn't do as well in those places where we need to persuade people to vote Labour if we're going to win a general election. That's my concern.
Okay.
It's no good having 5,000, 10,000 majorities in a few seats. We need the whole country, or vast swathes of it, to vote Labour.
Okay.
And a lot of the country doesn't believe yet that Jeremy is a Prime Minister in waiting. Now, as I've said in my piece, as I'll say all the time, if Jeremy can persuade the people of this country that he's the Prime Minister, he's got my full backing, and he's got my backing now. You know, I want him to succeed. But
Joe Hassan just wants to come in. Go on,
Joe. Let's be clear. If you're trying to be clear about this, you know, there's an old saying that goes: "There's facts and there's statistics and there's more statistics." Right? You know, I'm sure you know. Over the years, you'll have followed many elections, and the facts and statistics are interpreted in a million different ways. But the reality is that Labour have got the biggest share of the vote as a country. You know, on a pure aggregate number terms, the BBC indicates that they've got the highest vote. If I just quickly, finish basically, Joe. Right? They did admittedly do bad in Scotland, but in many other places, whether you talk about Wales, or I'm sure the results for Mayor of London is in, and the by-election, whatever, it's in all other years you would be regarded as a stunning victory. So
no,
you rightly said, Joe. Just
you're a
2 seconds, Joe. Just 2 seconds, right? You said earlier that 6 years in, 6 years after Conservative government came in, you know, we should be doing better. But we should have been doing better 5 years after in. Jeremy's only been in not even a whole year. You know, he's only been there 8 months. We've got to be a bit realistic with our expectations.
Hassan, Michael Foot, who wasn't a particularly popular Labour leader, won about 900 council seats. At this stage of the electoral cycle,
but the environment was different, Joe. You know that the setup for local elections.
It's a comparable. It's a valid comparable statistic. William Hague in opposition won about 1,000 council seats. Oppositions do.
There was no
well.
SNP involved, or Plaid Cymru, or UK.
Well, we do well. We should do well at this stage of the electoral cycle. This was not a good result for the Labour Party yesterday. It just wasn't. Now it was brilliant in Batley. It was brilliant. People came out. I'm so pleased they voted for Fazila and Shabir. But we have to be realistic.
Yeah, likewise across.
I'm leaving this conversation. We'll just have to agree to disagree on that.
Yeah, and Hassan, let's keep debating.
I've got a question. Okay, sure. Joe, I've got a question in from a listener. What, in your opinion, does the Labour Party have to do to move forward now? Do all the parliamentary Labour Party need to get behind your leader? To outside observers, it seems like MPs like yourself keep openly criticizing Jeremy Corbyn. There does seem to be a very open rift there. What needs to happen? Does the Labour Party need to basically get together?
I think that I think most of the Labour Party is united around the fact that we want to win power again. We want to get back into government. And actually, I've been loyal up to Jeremy Corbyn for the past 8 months. I've been utterly loyal, and I'm not calling for him to go or anything. Now I'm just saying, for the people of Batley, we need to win a Labour government, and Jeremy needs to really do a bit more. Now, what I think he should do, I think we need to stop talking about issues that don't connect to people's lives. We need to stop talking about things like the Falkland Islands and the monarchy and whether he's going to wear a poppy or not. We need to talk about schools. We need to talk about jobs. We need to talk about how our families are going to be kept safe on the streets. We're not talking about those things in a way that people are listening yet. And I'm talking about people who are Labour supporters, but I'm talking about people who are always a bit wary about voting Labour. We need to regain their trust. Jeremy needs to be able to talk to those people. And also, he needs to deal much more decisively with issues like anti-Semitism, and he needs to now make sure that the Labour Party wins the referendum on Europe. And that's a really big thing that I'm pretty passionate about now. In the national interest, I think we should vote to remain and stay stronger in Europe.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, we are live on YouTube at the moment, camera and sound. Now then, Joe, I've got another question. It's a statement and a question. Why is Joe speaking badly about the Labour leader in the national press? Give him a chance at the moment, dealing with so much within the party. Support him rather than show criticism. Is that? I mean, we keep talking about a way forward for the Labour Party. I mean, is it a case of giving him an actual chance? Because since he's come in, he's had criticism left, right, and centre, and this rift within the Labour Party.
Yeah, but a lot of people criticising him are criticising him on some of the decisions he's made. So it's not a personal thing. It's about, you know, the decision not to sing the national anthem, a remembrance ceremony, you know, or the decision where he wavered not to wear a poppy on a, you know, on Remembrance Sunday. I mean, these things are important to people, and I think it's fair that Labour Party members, Labour MPs can say, actually, Jeremy, we don't think that was the right thing to do. I think that's fair enough, to be honest. I mean, I get it all the time. I think it's if you stand for public office, if you're the leader of a political party, people are going to ask questions about your judgment, and I think that's absolutely right. It's the kind of democracy we live in, and that's a good thing. And actually, you know, the Labour Party is pretty united, really. I mean, you know, we all know, journalists like yourself, we like to focus on the arguments and the differences, but actually, for the most part, the Labour Party is united. You know, we all want to win power. And I think it's the, you know, the right thing for me to ask of my leader of my party that I love so much, that, you know, that I need him to have a plan to get us back to power. And I am impatient. I'm impatient because, as I said before, I don't want to wait another 10 years until we get a Labour government. I want to see us win in 2020.
Okay, Joe, I've got another message that's come in. Joe, if your constituents rallied together to get a petition for you to get behind your party leader and stop criticizing him unnecessarily, how many numbers would it take? Whoever it is has put an LOL at the end of that. But the
Good question. Good question. Do it.
I mean, yes. Well, first of all, I will ask you to answer that question. But the other thing that I want to mention to you is that you've mentioned about the doorstep and what people are saying to you on the doorstep. But what we're actually getting feedback for, or a lot of feedback that's circulating within people in Batley and Spen, is a tremendous support for Jeremy Corbyn.
How many people? How many people?
Well, so far, every message we've had in.
Yeah, how many people? I mean,
Joe, that's not fair. How many people? No, Joe, that's not fair. How many people have you? How many people have you had turning around and saying that Jeremy's a problem?
Of people every week. I've had loads of people. I've had 2 people in Liversedge the other day who gave me a massive thumbs down when I said, "Do you think Jeremy, you know, will ever be Prime Minister?" These are 75-year-olds who voted Labour all their life, and they do not see him as a leader. I was speaking to a couple in Robertstown just yesterday who voted Labour but do not believe in Jeremy Corbyn. You know, there are people out there now. Look, I also like the man, and I like his authenticity. I like his honesty. I like his principles.
That's what's appealing.
It's not about, and let's be clear, this is not about me criticising Jeremy Corbyn. I am criticising whether there is a clear plan to get Labour back into power, because that is what I want to see, and that's what I want to know. We're gonna make happen, and I'm gonna keep asking those questions, because that is the key challenge, the key test that Jeremy has to pass is, will we win power in 2020? That is a key test, and I'm not going to stop asking those questions, because I think it's absolutely the right thing for me to do for the people of Batley.
Okay, I've got another question that's come in. I think Hassan wanted to come in on something. Okay, let's take the question and then bring Hassan in. What will it take from Jeremy Corbyn to win over Joe Cox? And also
if he wins the election, yeah, go on.
Hold on, there's a message here for me. So doing a great interview, keep going. That's good for me. So okay, what will it take for Jeremy Corbyn to win over Joe Cox?
He's got to win in 2020.
Yes, but Joe, the thing about it is he needs your support before 2020.
He's got my support.
Well,
he's got my support.
But the thing is,
look, I am working day and night in support of the Labour Party. You know, I am out there doing surgeries, campaigning on Labour Party issues. I am loyal to the Labour Party. I'll be loyal till my dying day to the Labour Party.
But people, the 18 or so.
I'm not calling for him to go anywhere. I'm just saying to him,
Joe, you mentioned 18 or so Conservative MPs. If 18 or so decide to disagree with David Cameron on an issue, then he can't get power. Then they'll struggle to get it through. You know, we're not hearing those 18 or so Conservative MPs coming out and criticising David Cameron today.
Well, you're not listening hard enough, because they haven't done it today, but they've been very critical in the last few weeks. I mean, are you watching the European referendum debate? The Tories are ripping each other apart.
Well, yes, on that one debate.
Bill, on the Academies, no, on the Academies bill, you've had former Education Secretary, Tory Education Secretary, saying this is an abysmal policy. You've had the Tory councillors coming out and saying this is abysmal policy. You've had his backbenchers standing up in the House of Commons saying this is wrong, David Cameron. On the child refugees bill this week, you've had Tory MPs coming out and saying this is really shameful. Our government should be doing more. So there is a lot of internal division in the Tory party. I mean, you've got cabinet ministers literally tearing each other apart at the minute over the European referendum. So the Tory party are so divided at the minute and so disloyal to the leadership. It's kind of, and that makes me even more surprised that Labour didn't do better across the country. Let's
but
remind
the question,
okay,
just to come back to the listener's question.
The national focus.
Yeah, just to come back to the listener's question, the question was, what does Jeremy Corbyn need to do now? Win the 2020 election, yes, but what has to happen before then?
Well, first of all, he's got to help really throw his weight behind the European referendum and make sure we win that campaign in the national interest. Secondly, I really want to see more leadership on anti-Semitism from Jeremy. It's been slow. He's been slow to deal with it, and others have recognised that as well, including John McDonnell, who was quite critical of Jeremy being a bit slow in terms of dealing with some of the issues there. Yeah. And thirdly, there does need to be a plan to start talking to voters that are not currently voting Labour and persuade them to vote Labour over the next few years so that we do get a majority in 2020.
Right. Okay. Hassan wanted to come in.
And then I'm going to have to go because I've got to go see the family.
Joe, the thing is, there's so many of your constituents whose questions we have not been able to ask yet. This is the thing we're saying. You've mentioned a couple of people in Liverpool. I've got a couple of dozen messages and another one come in.
Well,
anyway,
Hassan, Hassan, Lynn, can you pause your question and let's do a quick fire round from other constituents?
Okay. Yeah, I'll concede there. Yeah.
Thanks, Hassan.
Go on, Hassan. You can ask. All right. Okay.
You can ask those.
Right, let me just grab hold of this. I think Joe is challenging the community to get a petition together. That's from the whoever it was who suggested a petition for Joe to support Jeremy Corbyn. Okay, someone from the Parliamentary Labour Party challenges the current Labour leader. How will you react?
Someone
challenges the leadership.
Well, I mean, it depends. I don't think that should happen. I don't think that should happen now. That's not. I don't think that should happen now. I think Jeremy needs more time, so I don't think that should be on the cards.
Okay. If you are loyal to the Labour Party, then how is it loyal if you are ignoring the democratically elected mandate given to Jeremy Corbyn by Labour members and supporters?
I'm not. I'm backing him. I'm just saying he's got to really reflect on why we didn't win more votes yesterday. I think that's a legitimate question for me to ask.
Right. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Got that one. Let's just have a look at this one. Will Joe Cox consider a ministerial position in Jeremy Corbyn's cabinet if offered?
So I've already been asked, actually, and I right now, because I've got two very young children and I'm such a new member of Parliament, I decided come back to me in a year is what I said, so that I've got a bit more time to understand Parliament, make sure that the constituency is getting the service it demands and deserves, and I've got a bit more experience of how politics works.
Okay, right now then, I'm gonna just read the gist of this particular message. But the message is asking that at the moment are there smear tactics against the Labour leadership?
No, I think it's more about genuine questions from those of us that really care about getting a Labour government again.
All right. Okay, Joe Cox, thank you. I've got a lot of other messages, but they're all asking the same question. They're all asking the same question. Why is Joe Cox not supporting the essence of the question is the same one. Why is Joe Cox not supporting Jeremy Corbyn, who is a leader that the local people can that the local people want?
Well, let's finish with this then again, just to say the reason. Look, I am loyal to Jeremy. I'm not asking him to go. I am asking him questions about how are we going to make sure we don't let the people of our country down by not winning the Labour government in 2020. And that's a legitimate question to ask.
Just before, Joe, if you don't mind me getting in one very, very quick one, if Jeremy Corbyn is not the leader and his immediate associates like John McDonnell, what is or who is the alternative within the Labour Party?
Hassan, I'm not even in that space. I don't think that's the debate we need to have. That's not, and let's be clear to your listeners. I'm not saying Jeremy should go. I'm really not saying that. I am saying Jeremy needs to be just really clear how we're going to win back power. So Hassan, I'm not interested in anyone else. I am interested in Jeremy answering these questions about why did we do so badly in Scotland? How do we get, Green voters and UKIP voters, of whom there were several thousand in our constituency. Let's not forget that. How do we persuade them to vote Labour? How do we persuade people who didn't vote yesterday to come out and vote Labour? Those are the questions I'm asking Jeremy. And I think that those are legitimate questions for me to be asking of my leader.
I realize you got to go, Joe, but sadly, because of your, the interview like this morning, BBC are like a loop, kind of putting your words out every half hour in the bulletins on whichever channel and radio. So, I would argue, or some would argue, that you're not calling for a leadership challenge, but even the thinking process is becoming a bit of a, own goal for the Labour Party. And that's what is shared. That sentiment is shared by all the people that I've certainly spoken to, and all the comments I've read on your own Facebook page. Anyway, Joe, me and you will always have a good laugh and good debate. We don't want to go. I'll bid you good night.
Joe, very quickly, one thing you mentioned the Green Party there. I'm not going to ask you as a question, but one of the things is the Green Party, of course, are for nuclear disarmament and that type of stuff, which is what Jeremy's for as well. So maybe he's trying to appeal to the Green Party voters.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
It didn't work because maybe Labour didn't go far enough. Maybe that's the question. Maybe the Labour didn't go far enough with those type of policies. But last thing I want to ask is, Joe, look, there's a lot of your constituents who are this way and that way. Maybe there's a lot of misunderstanding. Maybe it's the editing of interviews, etc., etc. Why not have a public meeting? Why not get into a room, offer the public to come and voice their views?
Well, I do public meetings all the time, actually, and I obviously have public surgery, so anyone can come and talk to me anytime. And lots of people just ring me all the time anyway. So if anyone wants to have a chat about anything ever, I'm very available. I'm sure people will accept that. But I am having a public meeting actually towards the end of this month. But it's going to be focused on the biggest issue locally that people talk to me about, which is Dewsbury Hospital. So I'll come on and let's broadcast that so people can come and have a proper discussion about the NHS and our hospital.
Yeah, and I believe that Sister Sophia is looking forward to that radio show as well. I believe all the discussions are happening there as well to make that happen. And I agree that's a very important public meeting. And to be honest with you, there's a very important agenda there and it shouldn't be mixed with anything else. But after that, why not have a public meeting where you can allow the public to come along and ask questions directly to you and let them voice their feelings to you?
They can do that anytime. They can email me, they can ring me, and I will have many, many, many public meetings on all sorts of things over the next few months and years. So, I mean, I'm always up for coming on the radio. I'm regularly available. I've got loads of surgeries. People can ring me anytime. They can email me. They can Facebook me. They can WhatsApp me. And I do have lots of public meetings. I mean, just in the last few weeks, I've done about 6. So I mean, I do public meetings all the time, and I'll make sure you've got all the dates.
Okay, so the message to our listeners out there is: if you feel strong enough, drop Joe an email.
Get in touch.
Yeah?
Get in touch.
Brilliant. By whatever way.
Lovely to talk to you as always.
Joe Cox, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Take care.
And hopefully we will get you in the studio again in not too long a time.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, take care. Bye,
thanks.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye. Right, okay, that was Joe Cox, the Batley and Spen MP. We've had her for a decent time, 42 minutes, nearly ate up the entire show. I say ate up in a pleasant and nice manner. Listen, we're going to go to a break. It's only less than 2 minutes, but we just need a little bit of refreshment, I think. Back after this. Broadcasting from the Al Hikmah Centre in Batley, West Yorkshire, you're listening to Radio IMWS. Are you running a business from home and need to move into an office, a place where you can confidently meet your clients, or maybe looking to relocate? The Al Hikmah Center provides office space in a safe, secure, and scenic location. With easy access, convenient location, free car parking, and free Wi-Fi, hiring an office at the Al Hikmah Center can allow your business to grow. For more details and special offers, call 01924 500 555 or email info@imws.org.uk. Get physical with great rates at the Al Hikmah Sports Hall in Batley. You can book a weekday daytime slot for just £18 per hour. Call 01924 500 555. Evening or weekend slots for just £38 per hour. And special discounted weekend slots available too. Call 07968 222 886. The Al Hikmah Sports Hall, the perfect place to get back in shape. It is related by Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a man marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half. The Al Hikmah Nikah service launched by the IMWS aims to introduce prospective marriage partners to help fulfill this important aspect of faith. The service is open to unmarried Muslims who are permanent residents of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.imws.org.uk. Radio IMWS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to this very special politics program. And we are very pleased that we had Jo Cox on there for 40 minutes. You heard her. So if you have any opinions to share, please feel free to do so. Remember, our studio WhatsApp text message is 07460 809218, or you can give the studio a call on 01924 505 629. We are in glorious color video and also stereo sound this evening, inshallah ta'ala, via YouTube. Head over to the Radio IMWS YouTube channel, and we are there live right at this moment in time. Now then, we have Maulana Hashim Sacha and Mufti Muhammad Amin Pandar sir in the studio with us. Ulama, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Afsar sahab, mashallah. Right, okay, who's going to come in first?
Can I say something on behalf of
Sir
sure.
Bhai? Yeah.
And on behalf of Sir Bhai, I'm sure most people will know, and on behalf of me, and I'm sure on behalf of every people here in the studio as well, we all want to congratulate all the winners of all the awards in the Kirklees area. And in particular, the Muslim candidates that were up for election. The turn, if I might take this opportunity to give a very quick overview without going into detailed statistics, the Kirklees elections, it elects councillors for 23 wards up and down this local authority, ranging from Almondbury and Holmfirth right down to the end of Heckman, Wyke and Liversedge and so on. And each ward has 3 councillors, so there's a total of 69 councillors, but only 23 get elected on an annual basis. What's happened is that Kirklees is still the biggest party on Kirklees Council after yesterday's election is still the Labour Party, but they have not got a majority. Out of 69, they would have to have about 35 wards to have a majority, but they've got about 33. 34. So they're one short. So that means that theoretically, if all the others gang up, Conservatives and Liberal Democrats and Independents and Green, then they could, beat Labour. But generally speaking, it's a massive boost for the Labour Party. Secondly, in terms of the wider picture, the elections were held. There were different elections held throughout the country. In Scotland, as Jo Cox was just saying, Labour was the second biggest party. It is now the third biggest party. They've been overtaken by the Conservative, but massively in the lead still is the Scottish National Party. And then they've got similar National Assembly elections in Wales, and there, surprisingly, Labour are in control. I think they've got a majority. That's fantastic. The downside is they managed to get in about half a dozen UKIP members for the Welsh Assembly as well. So that's a bit bad news. And then from the English councils, all the parties have won some and lost some. But the expectation, depending on who you speak to, was that Labour would lose many, many wards. But in fact, they've overall kind of done okay. It depends on what you compare it to. If you compare it to the elections last year, then Labour has done significantly well. They've got on aggregate terms, they've got the biggest voting share of any of the parties in Britain throughout the country. Now, one of the big elections was to do with the London mayor, and the two biggest candidates were Zach Goldsmith representing Conservative and Sadiq Khan representing Labour. Very, very interesting campaign that all round. And when I set up for the studio, I'm not sure the results were confirmed, but the latest was something like Sadiq Khan had about 44% and Zach Smith had 35%. So it's 99.9% certainty that Sadiq Khan has won. That's tremendous. The previous mayor there was Boris Johnson. So that's another fabulous result for the Labour Party. The only thing outstanding now is the police crime and commissioner elections. All the main parties put forward candidates here. I think the favorite was the Labour Party. I forget his name, Mark Burns-Williamson, I think right, it was. Now, we won't know the results of that. They've got the timing of the results weird, at different times. But we might not know the full result of that until Sunday morning. But there you go.
Yeah, and just to confirm, Sadiq Khan has become the first Muslim mayor after claims record number of votes in landslide victory as Zach Goldsmith's campaign attacked. That's just a headline. That's all. But just to confirm that that he has won that election, he has become the London mayor. Now I want to bring in Mufti Muhammad Amin Pandar sir into the discussion. Sir, what do you make of these elections? There's a lot happening today.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, definitely. There's a lot happening, and it's good to see that Muslims are slowly becoming more and more active. Now, we've always maintained for a long time that Muslims need to get into politics, not for any ulterior motive. Not the way we're against anybody, but we need to be able to get into all these different parties, and it's really a sort of point of happiness for us that Sadiq Khan has got in. Now, as we all know, there was a big campaign against him. They're calling him a terrorist and stuff like that. I think that all backfired actually, and you can't get far from. I mean, if they call him a terrorist, the whole battle in Dewsbury is double terrorist, and all the people sitting in this studio, for those people that can see us on YouTube, we've no hopes. So I mean, it's good that Sadiq Khan has got in. Now the question is, these brothers and sisters, including Sadiq Khan and the brothers and sisters who have got in Kirklees, what is their responsibility? Clearly, there's a couple of issues, and some people might disagree with what I'm going to say, but I'm still going to say it anyway. Why break a habit of a lifetime, innit? Like me. Listen, what I want to say is we've got to remember that these Muslim candidates who have got in are not in a Muslim, they're not in a Sharia council. So, trying to get things like, trying to get, all your Islamic wishes through the whole system is not going to work. They are a very few within the whole system. So they've got to work within the party, and they've got to use hikmat, and they've got to use understanding. So sometimes what you might see is, some of our Muslim candidates doing something which to you might look, he shouldn't be doing that as a Muslim, or why is he doing that as a Muslim? Well, you've got to remember that it doesn't always work like that. So we've got to give them, number one, the benefit of the doubt. The first thing is we mustn't wash our laundry in public, wash our dirty laundry in public. If we've got something against candidate X, Y, and Z, the first thing to do is pick up the phone or make an appointment with them and go and see them. Yeah. Clarify what it is that they've said, what it is they haven't said, and what you expected them to say, and give them a chance, rather than make negative propaganda about any one person, any party, or anybody. So that's the Islamic thing to do. We are very quick at saying, such and such a councillor, such and such a person has done this, is not helping us. Well, actually, to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that these councillors do, and I know for a fact that they do behind the scenes, and they don't want to come forward because our people, are very easy at at criticizing somebody, and then when things go right, they try. It's a double-edged sword for them, because if they help you and they win, then clearly they have got certain areas where there are non-Muslims voting, so they've got to be seen to be even-handed. So this is the point that I want to make, and again I echo what Afsar has said, that all those that have won from whichever party, we give them Mubarakbadi, and we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is for you, if you are listening, and if you listen to the recording, this is for you a khidmat khalq. You see, khidmat khalq se khuda milta hai, khidmat se khuda milta hai. Yeah. So this is don't for all of you Muslim candidates, don't think this is just a candidate job that you're doing. It's actually it's the footsteps towards the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look upon you. And also at the same time, I must also still not break the habit of a lifetime. If you conspire against Muslims, I'm sure you won't, but let me just warn you that, if you conspire, if you say anything, if you don't take the opportunity to maybe not in public, but at least in private, if you don't take the opportunity to talk to your non-Muslim colleagues and say, you know what, we need to be a bit neutral, we need to be a bit sympathetic to the Muslim, Islamophobia is coming through, so they need to engage at that level. Clearly, this is between them and Allah, so they need to be mindful of that.
Okay. Yeah,
Can I interject, Maulana? What message would you give to the people who have not won yesterday or today? I mean, from local point of view, the independent candidate Abdul Ghaffar didn't succeed, and neither did a friend of mine called Afaq Butt from the Labour Party for Cleckheaton area. What message do you have for them?
Yeah. There is a poem that goes in Arabic. It says, Abdi anta turid wa ana urid, wa la yakunu illa ma urid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh my creation, there is something that I want and there is something that you want. And what will happen is only what I want. If you go against me in what I want, then I will make it hard for you in what you want. If you accept what I want, then I will make it easy for you for what you want. In the end, what will happen is Allah's will prevail. So for those candidates who have, I hope you got the gist of what I'm saying, is basically this is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you haven't got in, and there might be a hidden raz in there, something hidden in there that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feels that you are not ready, or this might be an issue for you at this moment in time. So what you must make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm happy with whatever faisla you have made. What Allah has made faisla for you, you must be happy with what Allah's position, Allah has put in you. It doesn't mean that you give up. Next year, try again. Year after that, try again. So in a nutshell, for those of our brothers and sisters who have not been successful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reward already without winning. In the hereafter, your reward is waiting for you, because mujahida johd pehl karna. So you've acted on this Quran, saying that Allah will not change the situation of a group of people unless you try and change it yourself. So you have acted on this verse of the Quran. It's just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom and His mercy, found or thought that you're not ready yet, or He's got something better planned for you. So take that into account.
Okay, now then, whilst we're talking about the local elections, let's just run through very quickly the winners of the day. Dewsbury East, Paul Kane was the mayor, standing councillor, took 53% of the votes there, and it was an easy ride for him, to be honest with you. I think we all knew that. Musarrat Parvez, new onto the block. She's held Dewsbury West for Labour. That was the seat that was used to be Karen Rowling. So she's kept that one. Dewsbury South, the new councillor again, Gulfam Asif, who I believe used to be a councillor before as well. He's held that seat against Imtiaz Amin, who finished in second place. That's Dewsbury South. Former councillor there was Abdul Patel, the postmaster. And in Batley, of course, we know that Fazila Fadia, massive win. 3,487 votes to 594 from Derek Yates of the Conservative Party, who finished second, and then Abdul Ghaffar, as I mentioned, finished in third place with 512 votes. Yeah, but a big win for Fazila again, for a newcomer to the scene. That takes over from Hanif Mayat, who used to be the councillor, and our mashallah Shabir Bhai Pandor. I've always said a very hard-working councillor. I never really doubted that he would. I think I wrote in an article as well. I never doubted for him to succeed. Again, a big win for him. 2,833 votes to the nearest was, and this is where it really brings it home. In second place, we had in Batley West the UKIP candidate James Samuel Lochan Griffith Jones. Apologies if the third part of the name wasn't pronounced correctly, but the UKIP candidate who got 698 votes, and that's again, Batley West has been held by Labour. I can also say just before we came onto the air, I think it was announced Mark Burns Williamson is re-elected as West Yorkshire PCC as well, and I think I've been corrected on a message. I'll get to that in a moment, but I believe the Sadiq Khan has not officially been announced, but is most likely to become the Mayor for London. Maulana Hashim, you've been quiet for most of the evening. I'll let you come in now.
I'm glad I'm quiet. Politics is, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, all our elders did politics from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time to today. Siyasat, politics has always been the root of all Islamic society. And today even we are afraid of politics. Yes, we understand politics can be dirty. We have seen that firsthand by both candidates, Labour and Conservative of London. And we've seen it underhand playing. I'm not taking sides, but I'm saying that's part of the political field, that there is some dirty games playing behind. But at the same time, we cannot say because there's dirty games, we're not going to take part in it. If we don't take part, who's going to serve our community? Now, one thing Maulana said, which is that whoever did the niyat, he got the reward. I would also say whatever his niyat was, he got the full reward for that without doing it.
Yeah.
Because हमारा तो ये मसला कि है ना कि नियत कर लो, हाँ, और फिर अल्लाह ताला ने उसको कबूल नहीं किया, फिर भी तुमको पूरा सवाब उस काम का मिल गया. हज की नियत की, हज में नहीं जा सके, हज का पूरा सवाब मिल गया. नियत पे है, इन्नमल अमालु बिन्नियत. So alhamdulillah, I think good for those who's won. I congratulate them. Alhamdulillah, I congratulate all the what you call councillors in our ward. And I would say, I'm not so coming from an Islamic point of view, I say try to be there for the community, not for your own self, not for the shohrat or your name in the papers and that. No, try to serve the community the best you can. Be there for them. That is what you're chosen for. Now, if you can't do that, next election, don't come in.
Yep. Yeah, Hasamego.
It might be a good opportunity to pause and reflect just for 1 second as to what's happened. In the studio today, we've got from amongst the elder statesmen, Maulana Amin Pandor, but perhaps even elder than him might be Afsar Bhai, who's got a sore throat. He's not able to, illness prevents him from speaking today. But I remember the days when people like me and brother Afsar used to go to Kirklees Town Hall, and there were hardly a single Muslim councillor, throughout the whole Kirklees. And then moving on a bit from there, about 30 years ago, Awaz newspaper, community newspaper as it was, held one of our AGMs, and our guest speaker was a certain gentleman called Muhammad Ajib. He was at that time mayor, and he was the first mayor in the whole of Britain, as it happens for Bradford. And now look, we've got a person who is a Muslim mayor of one of the biggest cities in the world. It is one of the most influential positions in the whole world, and that includes USA and France and whatever. So that's no small achievement kind of thing. My tupan is worth about the people that were not successful today as well. It's a funny story, but sometimes defeat means victory. I'm not giving the Islamic perspective. I'm giving the ordinary perspective. Is that sometimes a win can mean defeat and a defeat can mean victory. Especially if you're into supporting financial organizations. Sometimes a company reports large losses and the share price goes up, and that's because the investors are buying into that company because they know they made mistakes and they will learn from that. Now similarly, I'm not saying that Afaq Butt or Imtiaz Amin or Ghaffar Bhai made mistakes, but they will have certainly learned from that experience. That's why I made the point of talking about the experience. Myself and Afsar Bhai, when we went to town hall council meetings, how many years ago? It was so many years ago. Not a single Asian, never mind Muslim council. And now look, so all this will be absolutely worth it. And it's in your CV now forever and ever.
And okay, we're going to get through some of the messages because apologies, we put them aside a little while. We've got 3 thumbs up from a listener out there. So they've given us 3 thumbs. I was hoping for 5, but never mind. Okay, we've got, when was the last time Joe's, this was a question that came in. Unfortunately, we couldn't ask Joe at the time, but when was the last time Joe spoke to Jeremy, and instead of posing questions back to Jeremy today, can she undertake to make an appointment with Jeremy and give feedback to her constituents about his responses and if she is satisfied? That's a fair point, and it's a shame Joe's not here to answer that, but it is a fair point. I'm sure she'll be listening back to this. Okay. Oh, sorry, Sadiq Khan result not out yet, will be officially around midnight. Okay, Jazakallah for that. What have you got here? Parliamentary Labour challenges. Okay, if you are loyal to the Labour Party, that was another one. Do the guests think that the Labour Party can address most of our community? Do the guests think that the Labour Party can address most of our community needs, or do we need to look at other parties or encourage and promote independence? Very good question.
Can I be the first to answer? For me, the answer is very, very clear. There's been a lot of debate and articles and reports and even studies published to indicate that why is it that the Muslim community is not voting en bloc comparatively to certain other communities, either in this country or anywhere else. So, because that is a fact. Some other communities are voting en bloc, right? I completely disagree with that. I think the power of strength must be that we get participation and engagement in every single party of every color of the spectrum. That's the best way to go about it. So that if one party fails to deliver or threatens to deliver, then we've got at least something to hit them with in terms of an alternative. I think it's fantastic that we've got independents running today, conservatives, liberal Democrats, another brother lost from the Liberal Democrat Party. I think it's fantastic that we've got people being participating in every single party. That's the only way forward.
Right.
Yeah, I think Hassan makes a very good point. And we have a living model of the Jewish community. They're into every single party. Now, again, let me not break a habit of a lifetime and take this discussion a bit further, and then if somebody disagrees, please feel free. I think we ought to just stand and pause and say, historically, a particular party has been very, very good for us. Now, going forward, things have changed. The landscape is changing, so we need to examine what it is that they're delivering for us. And we need to critically analyze, because there's not a lot of difference in the parties, because they move so much closer. Mind you, Jeremy Corbyn has now taken stuff back, but I mean, generally speaking, the parties are actually very close onto the center ground, and we need to be critically analyzing some of the deep down manifesto commitments. And this is what we don't do, because historically I voted XYZ, now I'm going to keep on voting XYZ. Yeah, that's a good strategy, but if we historically did what happened before, we would always still be worshipping cows.
Yeah.
So historically precedence is not necessarily something that's for the future. So we need to critically analyze, and I think we ought to start doing that. And I know certain people have started doing that. There are a lot of good things in a lot of other parties. I'm not saying move parties. I'm saying just be aware of that.
Okay.
Can I just quickly add as well that the Muslim people or Islam as a religion is homogeneous.
Yeah.
I'm using a big word there, trying to show I'm a clever sort kind
But
of.
you might want to explain that word.
Homogeneous means where everything is same. Like one TV is just the same as the other kind of thing. They might have a different brand name. So Islam or Muslim are homogeneous. We all pray towards Makkah Sharif 5 times a day. We all do Roza, we all do Hajj, etc., etc. But that's not to say that every single Muslim person is homogeneous. Now, what elections and politics is about is what you prioritize. So, for example, I might be happy about Labour Party on 9 out of 10 things, but the one thing I'm not happy about is that they might be raising taxes. So for just that one reason, I might vote for another party. Similarly, Conservative Party, let's say, for example, might be the best in terms of environment or equality or whatever, but they might not. It depends on what priorities are. Now, in the Western model, I apologize if I've upset someone, but the Western cultural model is that they, end of the day, focus their main decision generally, not exclusively, but generally in terms of pocket. What is, which is why you'll see this reflected in the talk about the European referendum. They're looking at it particularly from the economic point of view. How much does individual families and countries has to gain or lose, instead of looking at it from other angles such as security or equality or whatever. So that's what it's about. It depends on what person's personal priorities are. And that, like Muslim person, like every other person, is different from person to person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just add a bit further. I mean, up to about Jeremy Corbyn coming into the picture, I was really thinking, maybe it's time for me to change. But since Jeremy Corbyn came on board, I'm thinking, man, this is a genuine guy. So my allegiances that were starting to flounder and move around slightly, by looking at Jeremy Corbyn and saying, this is really a genuine guy. In fact, if you notice on Question Time, he was having a lot of difficulties initially because he was so straight. And this is the whole ethos of Muslim thinking. Yeah. He's like that, He was so straight that he wasn't getting answers. No?
Yeah,
he started to sharpen up his thinking now. Yeah. So I think Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party will revitalize itself. Has revitalized itself. Clearly, there are vested interests in certain areas where that's why people want to try and pull him down. Yeah. But we're used to that anyway. So I think. For those that are listening, I think Jeremy Corbyn is somebody, I personally think he's a really genuine person. You just look at the person and you can see the genuineness coming through his face. Yeah. I don't know whether I'm being stupid or what, but you can just look at him and say, this looks like, if you went in a bus and there was Jeremy Corbyn sitting and there was somebody else sitting, I won't take name, who would you sit next to? I would certainly sit next to a person that looks like Jeremy Corbyn. You know what I mean? He's just got a friendly face. But having said that, he does need to sharpen up his politics. Yep. He does need to that. He needs to be more cutthroat. He needs to do that. He needs to probably move towards the center in certain things, because it's not that it's like very quickly. I'm going to hug the microphone for just one more. It's like
why change the habit
of a lifetime
again?
The
5th time we're saying.
Yeah. Well, why change the habit? Yeah. Especially when Hassan's around. This person saw a dream, and in his dream, all his teeth were knocked out except one. So he went to a dream interpreter. And the dream interpreter told him that, really, astaghfirullah, everybody in your family is going to die. You're the only one going to be left behind. So he got a bit upset, After a while, he went to somebody who was a bit more wiser. He said, look, I've had a dream. All my teeth have fallen out except one. What do you make of this dream? So the wise man said, mashallah, mashallah. All your family will die at normal age. You will live a ripe old age. You see, the same dream, but interpreted in a different way. Yeah. So what I say, if people who have influence over Jeremy Corbyn, particularly Joe, go and talk to Jeremy. Say, look, what you're saying is right. What you want to do is right, but just twist that, just move that language across. Okay. Just make this interpretation, the way you say things, use a bit more diplomatic language, and you will see that it bears fruit.
Okay, now Joe Cox has actually messaged in BBC House of Commons projection from last night. Results: Conservatives 301, Labour 253, SNP 53, Lib Dems 19, Plaid Cymru 4, UKIP 1, others 19. Thought you and Hassan might like this. Good to talk, Joe. But we can analyze that for sure. But I think if we start now, it'll be until midnight. So we can analyze that on another occasion. We did get some other messages in as well. My apologies, I forgot to check this phone. Someone did mention about asking Joe about Kirklees to give powers to Batley Dewsbury rather than Huddersfield. I think that's a whole different program that we need to really get on for that.
Evolution now.
Yeah, that's devolution, and maybe we should do that again. Well, I'm sure we'll get the politics program again. We've also got, I believe there was another one on here. Bear with me a moment. I think we might have done them all.
Now, if I was sitting at home, I think you were making these questions. I can see you actually got on your phone.
the fact that I'm actually struggling with the phone.
Yeah, I know.
And the fact that we've got a camera pointing straight at us as well. Look, it's been a very entertaining and exciting day. Labour have won the West Yorkshire PCC, and he stayed. They look like they're going to win the London mayoral election with Sadiq Khan, even though Sadiq Khan is not exactly a Corbyn supporter. And across Kirklees now, I remember one thing, an honourable mention I wanted to make. It was to Ken Lowe. From the local Batley and Spen Labour Party, isn't he? Who was actually campaigning for Almondbury, and he was short of 69 votes. He was short. Now, this is what I'm struggling to grasp, this mass exodus of Labour supporters. If that's the case, then how can someone from Batley standing in Almondbury? I mean, I asked someone the same question. If someone from Almondbury came and stood here, and what's more, it wasn't a Labour seat to start with, it was Lib Dem to start with. So it's not your party seat, it's not a local person, but they come in and they fall 69 votes short of winning the seat. So for me personally, I think that there's a lot of working class areas who really can
one
connect.
seat would have been the difference between Labour being overall control.
Yeah, absolutely. 69 votes. That's how close it was. And in fact, Golkar, Labour nearly won Golkar as well. That was quite close as well. Again, I think it was a bit more than those 69, but it was pretty close there as well. The thing about it is, that's politics. What I'm seeing in working class Kirklees is more and more people or support for Labour actually increasing, not decreasing. Is that fair?
It is.
Yeah. And on that wonderful note, although someone sent a message, on that wonderful note, we'll have last comments because I need to go pick my son up. We'll start. Maulana, we've had you. Maulana Hashim will let you have a say.
Yeah, please.
I won't say much. I'll say what Afsar Uncle just said, that big thank you to all the listeners, and a big congratulations to all the winners. And Alhamdulillah, as Maulana says, the losers, don't worry, do not get put off. Do it again next year. Inshallah, you may win.
Yeah, inshallah. Hassan bhai?
My final word is to reiterate a slogan I mentioned earlier in terms of facts and statistics and more statistics. Politicians, they're a funny breed of animal. They will interpret one thing in 100 different ways. So you take out of this election and any other election what you want out of it. But the main thing is to engage and to participate in the process. No one's asking you to stand for becoming a mayor or a member of parliament or even a councillor. No one's forcing you even to be a member of a political party, but at least take an interest. There was some stunning research done by an organization I'm sure you'll all be aware of called MEND, who, when they held a public conference here about a year ago, they said that projecting into the future in about 4, 5, 6 years time, the Muslim number of voters will actually be the balance. Based on current projections, empirical analysis and all that, we will effectively hold the balance. So I think my message is simple. Everyone take an interest in politics. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, Maulana, do you want to last?
Yeah. The hadith that comes to mind, it says, أو كما قال كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته, that all of you are shepherds. Now here I'm talking about our counselors now here. So I'm just sort of broadening out the hadith out. وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. So you are all shepherds, but you're looking after the sheep, and you are responsible for them. So you as counselors, if anybody is listening, whether you're a Muslim counselor, whether you're not a Muslim counselor, you are still a responsible person. And for those who are Muslims, then on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you specifically, what did you do about the people that were under you and you had the power over them? So be very careful, and I'm sure that you will exercise your judgment all the time in the best way. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you all the wisdom, the hikmat, and the foresight to look at issues and look at the long-term solutions for the ummah, because we are here to stay. We want to project a positive image of Islam. All of you are good role models because you're now into politics, and wherever you see things going on within our own community and you feel this is not right, you need to approach the people of the mosque, etc., to try and put that right. Now it's a long subject, this prevent agenda, etc., but yeah, this is the only thing we have. We've got to work with it. So make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah give you istiqamat and give you understanding, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks after you. And be aware, there are a lot of people who are hasideen, who what's the word for hasideen in English?
What you call
jealous, animosity and jealousy. Don't be swayed by them. For one person that says something bad about you, there are many people who will say good things about you. Keep a positive image at the time of your meetings for namaz. You need to be practicing Muslims. You need to, everybody is a sinner. Nobody, the only perfect person is sleeping under the green dome as we speak. So he's sleeping there. So I mean, given that some other people might have slightly different interpretation of that, but basically that is the only perfect person. Everybody makes a mistake. So the mistakes are those. All continuously make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps the ummah, and helps us to portray true Islam. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah. And I just want to read one quick message out. I hope Joe takes it in the humorous comment that it's supposed to be meant in. Is Tom Watson? Someone said, Joe, is Tom Watson off your Christmas card list, having rebuked you on national television? Tom Watson did today ask Joe to show more patience, I believe. So there was a bit of a rebuke. Joe, hope you don't mind that. But you can have a little bit of tongue in cheek. And I shouldn't be so nasty, because she did actually call me a journalist this evening. You caught that as well?
I heard that.
That's good. That's going on Facebook. Okay, right now I'm going to close the program off here. Jazakallah to everyone. Afsar Sahib, if you want to say something, sure. Afsar Sahib, I know he's struggling from a throat infection, but Jazakallah for coming in today. To all my guests, Mufti Muhammad Amin Pandra Sahib, Brother Hassan Badat, Maulana Hashim Sacha, and by Afsar Sahib. Now, finally, I know today has been a bag of mixed emotions, if you like. There's been fantastic results if you're part of the Labour Party or supporters of the Labour Party. Good wins for local people as well. And also, of course, a lot of people have been talking about what Joe Cox has been saying. Now, if you agree with Joe Cox, fine. You know what? Send us a message and tell us off as well. And to be fair, we've tried to be as balanced as we can throughout the program as well. But send Joe Cox the same message as well. And if you don't agree with it, then you know what? Send Joe Cox that message. Email her, call her, meet her at one of the searches that she mentioned already. Because if you don't tell your MP what you feel, then all that's going to happen is that she's going to have reference on are the people who do tell her what they feel. So there's a lot of people today who've been saying a lot of things about supporting Jeremy Corbyn. You know what? Don't just say it on WhatsApp groups and Facebooks. To say it directly to the MP. Email your MP. Talk to your MP, visit your MP, whether you agree with something or disagree with something, contact your MP. And the other thing is raise those issues. You know what? We talk a lot about issues, but we don't raise them with the right people. We don't raise them with the MPs, and we don't raise them with the councillors. We've got new councillors coming into local wards. Raise your issues. We've got existing councillors there as well who've been doing a fantastic, some of whom have been doing a fantastic job. Raise your issues with them. Don't say sit in silence. That's not what Islam is about. Alhamdulillah, you know what? By raising the issue, you might feel that you're being selfish, but you're not, because you could well benefit the rest of mankind. Am I right?
Yeah.
So inshallah ta'ala, Jazakallah for joining us on this evening. It was a very short notice program, but it's been very enjoyable. I think we should do this again.
I think so.
Have you got going forward a word about the European election?
I will allow you. I'll give you 5 minutes on that.
Really, I just wondered if IMWS had any plans about the EU referendum.
There is something that's in the process, but let's see what happens. Otherwise, inshallah, we will certainly be bringing it onto the radio and bringing people onto the radio.
I will volunteer if you're wanting to hold a debate in this studio. I am willing to speak on behalf of Brexit.
Right, on behalf of Brexit. Okay, right. Okay, now then, that's it's getting interesting. Hassan Bhai has put himself forward as a Brexit candidate. We want a strong and powerful to stay in Europe candidate, inshallah ta'ala, out there. Email me at radio@imws.org.uk.
If you don't find an alternative candidate, count me in to oppose Hassan.
It'll be the quietest day I've ever had.
Europe.
I certainly am.
This is going to be a very interesting debate already. Do you know what? Just email me anyway, whoever's out there. I mean, if these two get onto the show, that's it. I won't have a word to say edgeways. That's it for us tonight. I know. I just leave them on the mics. We'll be absolutely fine. Okay, Jazakallah for listening to all our listeners out there. Jazakallah for all your messages, all your comments. Remember us in your du'as, and until the next time. Oh, sorry, no, I've got to remind you of something. Yes, I do. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Inshallah ta'ala, we are going to have Sister Safiya will be in the studio live. Let me just pull that message up. It's here somewhere. I know that for sure. Okay, Sister Safiya will be in the show. Topics will be women deepen their voice to be heard in a workplace. Safiya's tips on how women should talk and present themselves in a meeting, tips for young women going for job interviews, and how to see children as an investment. To finish the show, a happy, inspiring story on a young child who had his legs amputated at just 14 months of age and still aims for his dreams. Sounds like a fantastic show. That's tomorrow from 5 p.m. on Radio IMWS. And on Monday, Maulana, we have got the Islam program changing from Tuesday to Monday evening at 8 p.m. And this week we are going to have
from 8 p.m. till Maghrib, inshallah, I will be in the seat. And after Maghrib, we're going to get Maulana Ejaz Sahab from Sharia Council. Now, we're going to have a full-on questionnaire there on all aspects of Sharia Council and the positive of it, why, and people are thinking a lot of negative on it. So let's put a positive stand that because it's serving our community and make it understanding better.
Let's put it in a light that people can understand the actual workings rather than the stereotypical versions we get.
30-second interlude on what is Sharia Council. Just 30 seconds.
Go on quickly.
Basically, the Sharia Council is a way where a lot of our sisters who get married and the husband, for some unknown reason, from whatever reason, decide to leave them or leave them in limbo. They won't give them a divorce, and they basically, it makes life hell for them. So what it is that Islam as a religion has actually done something where there's certain action that can be taken to actually separate the husband and wife. But obviously, there's a lot of details behind that. First of all, they try reconciliation, etc., etc. But this is a nutshell. But there's a whole long process that they go through, and that's what Maulana Ejaz and Maulana Hashim Sahab will be talking about.
Okay, that's brilliant, mashallah. Okay, that's it from us. Until the next time, from all of us in the studio, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.